Hi, everyone. I'm Rebecca, and I am here introducing everyone to Light Workers for Success. And tonight we have Adam, Pamela, and Colette. Normally Amanda's with us, but she's not here this evening. And tonight, because we all are practitioners of different modalities, and I realize there's an awful lot of people looking for ways to raise their consciousness, get into the higher realms of consciousness where they can be free of anxiety, stress, worry, wondering what is going to happen to them in their lives. There's a lot of that going on out there on planet Earth, we realize, because this is the time of the Great Awakening. So each one of us is going to share a little bit about the practice that we're in, and um, specifically, we're all a little different in what we do. So I thought it would be interesting if we each talked a little bit about our modalities. And Adam, would you like to go first?
Sure. Yeah. So one of the things that I took was a coaching school called IPEC, and IPEC stands for International Professional Excellence in Coaching. And one of the things that when I was doing my research on what coaching school to take, and it was expensive, and I think it's even more now, but I was looking at leadership and different stuff. They were rated the top coaching school in the world. They go above and beyond what you need to actually learn. But what I did learn when I was there is something called energy coaching through different energetic levels, and they have 7 different energy levels. And they actually do have an assessment called ELI, Energy Leadership Index, and they actually go through a survey of questions, and then they let you know where you are resonating with your energy, your energetic output, and how you're showing up in the world. It's a very, very interesting. I don't know how you'd call it, test survey. That's probably not the right word, but it's a very, very in-depth look into yourself. And so if you're looking, if you're not happy with the results that you're showing up in the world, or you don't even know how you're showing up into the world, this might be a really good starting point. They go into a lot of the subconscious mind and taking out what they call gremlins. So removing the gremlins. The gremlins are those voices that are in your head, that that negative self-talk, that always beating yourself up when you make a mistake. And so we go through a lot of gremlin work to get that out. And then we reprogram the subconscious mind. Literally, that's what we do. And that's what my coaching has been based on. It didn't start there, though. I mean, I started long, long before that, probably in 2002 or 2003, I think it was, somewhere in that time frame, where I went to a motivational speaker. Well, at least I thought I was a motivational speaker when I first went to him. His name was James Ray, and he actually spoke a lot about the mind and the 4 different parts of the mind. And then he even talked about the superconscious mind, which is like your spiritual mind, your other. It's much, much higher. It's much more powerful when you're able to tap into that. How to really get into that. And that's where I learned how to meditate, and that's where I learned about reincarnation, and everything that goes on with our spiritual self, which I was never really connected to up until that point. And that was probably the beginning of my journey to my spiritual self, and finding who I am and what I'm all about. And that was probably my most powerful weekend that I was ever in. And what I would highly recommend, if you're not doing it now, obviously, is to start meditating. If you don't know how to meditate, don't worry. There's lots of people on YouTube that can guide you through and walk you through. There's guided meditations. You can just sit there and just listen to like sounds, frequencies, is what I would listen to. I know, Rebecca, you're big into the Silva Ultramind, which listens to theta and delta and alpha waves. And, just even putting that on, closing your eyes, just breathing and just listening to those noises. I mean, it goes a really, really long way, and it just starts to get the energy flowing in your system. So, those are some of the things that I do, that I have done in the past. Obviously, it's a learning process. It's not just you're done, and you've done it once and you've learned it and you're good to go. It does take years and years and years to master it. And if you even think about that word master something or mastery in something, the definition that I understand is it takes about 10,000 hours to master something. So think about it. If you're working 40 hours a week at doing something, I think it's like 20 to 25 years before you've actually mastered something, if you're working that much at it. So to be a master, it does take a lot of practice. And just know that there's no right and wrong answers. There's no right way or wrong way to meditate. However you meditate, whatever works for you. If you're looking for new techniques and styles and different things, then it's all out there. You can find different people to follow, and they can give you different tips and guides and all sorts of things. I mean, don't just try one thing, try everything, and really get a feel for it, because that you've got to figure out what works for you, not what works for me, because what works for me may not work for you. So those are some of the things that those are some of the tools that I use, but I really do believe uh, the biggest tool that if you don't know it is, I would say, first understanding the mind, and how the mind works. And then the second tool is meditation. And those are the two tools that I would highly recommend. If you're going to do anything or start anywhere, start with those two tools, right from the very beginning.
Very good. I agree totally. To know thyself.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, Colette, why don't you share with us what you do?
Okay. I'm actually driving. So is it okay if Pamela goes and I'll go
Sure, go ahead, Pamela.
after her?
Okay.
Sure. We want you to be safe. So for me, I was blessed because I was also raised, my family's Native American, so my grandmother raised me a lot. So I had a lot of the being around sage and that time of just being around the fires and the quiet time, and going within. It was probably, that's probably my late 30s, 40s before I really understood meditation, because I had been given the understanding impression that you had to totally quiet your mind to be able to meditate. And I never could do that because I could hear everything going on around me. And so I would give up, and it wasn't until later that somebody told me that it doesn't have to be like that. And at that time I had gotten with another group of Native Americans who did sweat lodges. So I did a lot with them, with the sweat lodge, because that's such a cleansing experience. And that's when I really understood about going within and allowing the healing to take place. And now I don't even think about it. It's like I spend every day, I start my day meditating and I end my day meditating. I intentionally listen to music or YouTube videos that are at a specific hertz. The higher the hertz to kind of help raise my vibration, especially if it's a lot of things going on and I start getting stressed or anything, I will tune out of everything else and unplug and just kind of regroup and go within. And that to me is I think that's my biggest tip for anybody, is that you have to have that inner standing of who you are. I believe that it kind of goes back to that, I really believe heal thyself. So I do a lot of work for healing for myself. And I think even if you're not a healer, you have to do the work, right? And that's tough sometimes because you have to look at the things you don't like as much about yourself and be willing to face those and let go of them. And sometimes what we don't like are things that is just lies we were told or impressions. Right now, I'm reading a book called The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, and it's got throughout the book, it's been edited by his son, and he talks about how he was doing some research about all books that were written from 1776 forward about self-help, self-development, personality type thing. And one of the things he discovered is that when they first started writing books about self-help or developing yourself, becoming a leader, things like that, it was about character. And when you go within yourself, that's when you decide you have that discernment of where your character is. It's kind of like what a lot of us say, how you show up in the world, how you do this is how you do everything. And books that are written nowadays, a lot of times are more about personality, how you can get someone to like you, how you can, your whole image a lot of times is based on someone else's opinion or what you may think their opinion. A lot of times it may not even be their opinion, it's your interpretation or your impression of their opinion. So I found, like, for myself, if I can just separate myself when I start feeling those kind of things and wondering, did I do this right, or did I, does that person like me? Because you still have those insecurities sometimes. I just go within myself and remind myself that I'm sovereign and I'm a creature of the light and I'm connected to divine source, and I don't have to have someone else's approval. And that's what I do to remind myself, because sometimes I don't watch TV. We don't watch the news. We don't listen to any of that stuff because it's like they say, it's television. They're telling you what they want you to see and believe. So we just don't do that. We watch movies occasionally, but we pick very, very selective about what we do watch. And I just disconnect from the things that are not going to keep within the vibration that I want to be at.
Nice. Just as you were talking about being sovereign, in the very same minute, I was writing down that to be sovereign is our birthright. Yeah. And very nice. Come out and be separate, as they say. So Colette, can you talk now?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So there's a few tools that I use to keep my vibration high, to access my consciousness. And one of them is actually called Access Consciousness. And what Access Consciousness does is it reminds you that you already know, know that you know. So many of us, we doubt ourselves. We doubt our intuition. We doubt our inner knowing. It's kind of like what Pamela was talking about. Like, we're so used to getting approval from outside of ourselves and we've been so programmed to ignore our own intuition that we doubt ourselves and we ignore ourselves and we look for approval. And so the mantra of Access Consciousness is, all of life comes to me with ease, joy, and glory. And I just love that. And so one of the first tools that they teach you in Access Consciousness is to say that mantra 10 times in the morning and 10 times at night. And so you say it and then you feel like, what would it feel like, or what does it feel like for all of life to come to you with ease, joy, and glory? So as you're saying it, feel what it would feel like. So all of life comes to me with ease, joy, and glory. And in Access Consciousness, glory is exuberant expression of life.
Nice.
Sorry, of course I'm getting a phone call in the middle of my video. Gotta love live, yeah. Right? So so that's the first tool from Access that they teach you. And then Access Consciousness uses questions as tools. And so you're not actually trying to find an answer. When you ask a question with Access Consciousness, you're actually bringing up an energy, because our words are spells, right? We can craft things, create things with our words. And so questions are meant to bring up an energy And so a few questions that are, again, basic tools of access is what else is possible and what would it take? So these are just fun tools that I like to share with people, right off the bat to start playing with, to ask, throughout the day, like, oh, what else is possible? Because once we've decided that something is right or something is wrong, we cut off so many possibilities. Our brain wants things to be easy and automatic, like driving. Our brain likes to make everything very systematic. But because it makes everything systematic and tries to make everything so efficient so it doesn't have to think and make decisions, once you do make a decision, it just cuts off your awareness, your consciousness of all of the other possibilities. And sometimes those other possibilities are actually awesome, right? And so it'd be a great thing to be aware of. And so, yeah, just asking questions and being the question are fun tools that I like to share with people right off the bat. Another one of the tools from Access Consciousness is the bars. And I'm an Access Consciousness bars facilitator and practitioner, which means that I do bar sessions on people. And I also teach people how to run the bars. And so the bars are 32 points in your head. And when you touch them, they correspond to different areas of judgment that a lot of people have. And so there's like a bar for money, there's a bar for creativity, there's a bar for your body. And so it's kind of like a delete button for your limitations in those areas. So people come to me for all kinds of different things. A lot of times they're having trouble sleeping, they're having stress, they're feeling very stressed out, overwhelmed. They're not sure what the next move is for themselves. They're feeling confused. They're feeling triggered, easily angered. So it's like, it's super fun because people are like, oh, what's going to happen? And I'm like, well, let's find out. Yeah, because every session is different and every person is different. So I can never tell someone like, oh, this is what's going to happen with your session. So it's kind of like an experiment to see what's going to happen. So I just love the bars. I definitely recommend getting your bars run. There's bars practitioners all over the world. So no matter where you are, you can find a bars practitioner in your area. You can just do a search on the accessconsciousness.com website. If you're in San Diego, hit me up and I will run your bars. And so Access Consciousness is a great tool that I love to use to, keep me clear, keep my vibration really high, using all of those tools. Another thing that I do is shadow integration work, and that's a bunch of stuff, past child regression, going into past memories and recreating them. A lot of times we get stuck if we have a traumatic experience, we get stuck in those memories, and it's like a time loop in our brains. Our brains create like this time loop where we're like, we can't get past it. Even if we're trying to block it out and trying not to think about it, that trauma is stuck in our bodies. And so the bars actually helps with that too, but so does the shadow integration work that I do. And so I work with people who have had past traumas, and I teach them how to relax their body, because a lot of times people can't even relax. They're so tense, they're just carrying so much in their bodies, and they don't even know it, because a lot of people with trauma, they stay in their heads and they ignore their bodies. And so that's what I teach people how to do as well, is I do sessions with people, remind them to pay attention to their bodies, remind them to use their bodies as feedback, to release, to relax, so that that people don't create disease in their bodies. So those are some of my favorite tools that I like to share with people. And yeah, if you have any questions, of course, reach out to me or anybody else in this group.
Now, can you just spell bars? Is it B-A-R-S?
Yeah, BARS, just because it creates a bar of energy. That's why it's called bars. It creates a bar of energy in your brain. So when I touch your head on both sides, there's a bar of energy, and it actually kind of puts you into the theta state.
Mm.
which, I mean, Rebecca works in the theta, Pamela works in the theta. So we're all pretty familiar with the theta state,
Right.
which maybe Rebecca will share with you
Yeah.
in a minute. So
Well, and I also love that statement you made that you teach people to know that you know. That's very powerful. Get
yeah,
all that doubt. If you just know that you know something, it's a done deal. That's great. All right. Well, I'll share a little bit about what I'm about. I've been on the journey, I feel like my whole life. Um, I was first introduced to the teachings of George Gurdjieff when I was in my early 20s. And he got my attention because he pointed out that the mind is like a wild animal until you learn to tame it and, start to get on top of the way your thinking goes. And I found that, I was really happy when I was having a good time, but then I could get kind of down when things weren't going my way. And I didn't like that at all. I wanted to just kind of find a way to be more consistent. And he opened my eyes to some techniques like observing yourself, really doing some work on the way your mind works. But that was just the beginning. He kind of took me to the precipice, but he didn't take me to completion. And then when I had a spiritual healing, I went to a Christian Science practitioner and she healed me like that because I really feel a lot of it was her vibration. Even she actually morphed before my eyes into what looked like a Tibetan monk to me, which kind of shocked me. But maybe that was just part of her healing, incarnation. It was fascinating. She was an American woman, but all of a sudden she looked like a Tibetan monk. But, I did have a spontaneous healing, which got my attention. So then I went deeply into studying the writings of Mary Baker Eddy, who wrote a book called Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures, and the Bible, and all the stories about Jesus. And I wanted to know how he healed. And I have convinced myself that it is possible to figure that out because it's all consciousness. It's just knowing, like Colette said, know that you know. When you're that radical in your thinking, things happen. And I like being a radical thinker. Like Pamela was saying, about being sovereign. I truly believe that to be sovereign is our birthright. But I didn't know that until I woke up and claimed it. I used to think that I had to let doctors tell me what to do, or, authoritarian figures or teachers or, people that I thought maybe knew more than I did about things. But I've learned, no, you can co-create with your own divine intelligence and make things happen that way. And you still have to live in society and listen to what's going on, but you don't have to get sucked into all the crazy stuff. And so then after I retired from my flying career, I looked around for 2 years to see what I wanted to do next. And it was like the Silva Ultramind trainer thing fell in my lap at the right time. And I started teaching people how to get down to the alpha theta level of consciousness on command and use it to solve problems, claim their perfect health if they had a health condition, remotely heal people if they chose, remote view things, remotely influence. And I've learned that the more you live at the alpha level of consciousness, which is different from the beta is when your five senses are activated and you're just, going around doing your thing. But when you get down into alpha, which is what you do when you're driving your car or you're reading a really good book and you get lost in it, or you're meditating, you're daydreaming, it's a different frequency. Theta is even deeper. And when you get down into the alpha and theta frequencies, that's where you have to go in order to heal yourself. And that's where you can go and use your imagination to visualize what you desire. And it's fun. It's not like a chore. It's fun to go to bed at night and visualize things before you drift off to sleep, because that's a really good time to do it. And I like to teach people how to visualize when they wake up in the morning, because you're still kind of in that alpha level of consciousness as you're waking up. So that's another good time to do it. And you get results. I think that spirituality and metaphysics is the only thing that can save someone in these times that we're living in. If you don't have that, you're disconnected. You need to find something that will connect you to your higher self, to higher intelligence, to a bigger, more expansive view than what you're going to get in this 3D world, because people are hell-bent to make this 3D world look so distasteful right now that, many people don't even want to go out. So, you got to do something. You've got to learn how to connect to your higher self, and then things open up and you find possibilities and you find openings with like-minded people. And just like we did here in this group, we're all very like-minded and we like to get together every week. But you need that in these times, because without it, what are you going to do? It's a good time to write a book or be creative. Very good time for creative people, because you get a lot of alone time. But I think all of us, with all of our different modalities, have different ways to approach it, but it's all the same thing. It's all going to the same place, freeing ourselves from feeling trapped in our human minds and not being part of the higher realms of consciousness, where we can really explore and solve problems, have a wonderful time, and be happy. So that's what I have to offer. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to say?
No, some of the things that you guys were talking about are definitely good reminders. Like I know.
Hmm.
That is such a key and critical one. And if you just say that over and over and over again, I mean, don't have that self-doubt, have self-confidence. And you guys all know that my biggest thing is, once you have self-confidence, I mean, it changes the game that you're playing at that point. As soon as you know what works and what doesn't work, like it's like, when you get a new job and you're first kind of learning it, you're always kind of afraid to make a mistake. But once you've been doing it for a while and you're not even thinking about making a mistake. It doesn't even cross your mind, and you can move fast, you can move swiftly, you become a master. You have all these tools in front of you at that point. And so, yeah, I really, that was a good reminder. And thank you, Colette, for reminding me on that one.
Hmm. Well, this was great. I love all these shares and ideas on different ways to approach it. Because the more tools you have in your toolkit, sometimes it's, every day I look for more interesting teachers and ways to look at things. It never ends. And that's the beauty of studying metaphysics and spirituality. Some people have called it the highest art form, because it's so creative, to be able to explore your inner world and discover things within. So thank you, everyone. And if anyone has anything else to add, if not, we can say that was great. Okay.
All right. Well, everyone, you have a good night. And remember, if you like this video, to like and subscribe, like our channel. If you want to share it with your friends and family or whoever, and you think they might get some use out of this, definitely share it.